Demunyu skula nyepamne ne kudlukula nyepangi ragala gena nyepamne ne kudlukula ibuloke nongoto ni beti sola buloke dato ni betoto
Bege Congo
Lamin
na
Lami te jibe norin te nyamen Lamin
kabana
wuloko no nyinta mo Lamin
pabilenki
muna ngata afamole
haina
ngata Ngoto le Fabrama
Mingi baba nyole
Ngoto le Fabrama
Namu jumara kan kuma diten
Fabrama
jumara mu
ndele ibade muso
lunda mana
mo kata
jamani bere
alindo ko
jamani
bari ngoto man kontande
bari jamani fana na mudu wa kontan
ngoto minaka ngalamin je fon filitala lamin jibe nori nyaala
lamin ila siran sama ne benki yala so tol sayni no bo mo la ko momo
ngoto
nam
amin hakilo diata bake karambu ngoto anu santen ministry ko di ngole si suwo ko amake ko do holiday
si bitun
bagona de
ala ni ko kede namo balo
ala ni na ko ina karta bulo be damna ala ni je
ngoto
nam
ngoto mon kontan fere
jamani mu nekata
idika lamin ki wulo ko no nyinta mon ko do fete malo lamin nyanta sila la be la moy kala karango
jamani karamol be soron ne ko fasita wulo ko nako
karambu wol ma soron ni ko karambu wol soron da amake ko holiday lem ngoto dini ngo nyanta sila la ala karango la moy yamen kamen fue man kontaan anda mande
alla nyin kombo courant adanda la kombo len do la jan karamol le soron da do kamen courant ma ra do la kombo e ko ndol fana na karamol soron je karamol soron lamina dara lo nyino la amanta ra fena so kon ala mu nekela
am lamin ite foyde malon ko lesinol be ke kar radio to
nga fine
e ko yana di mo lamin ya mu na fonye
bi kabin mina kan tambita nteri manin fatu tambide la suko ala dinngol bebe siri be la moy ka
faru danso am fana tambira jele ni subala la ngaje dinngol be je talanta nen kili wato e be seri jele
sa lamin farante ku kili wo ke no la ba lamin bi ta ka wulo ko no nyin taymo alami
amanda ra fenela
ite dine ko ni man si yakari lesinol la moy radio to e balon nan
mu ne ka ke afonje ma ñaara ni alon
telentel jikot
afonje ma mu ne be ke
ite balon tel be cikiritel ni man karambe ku kele yaaje nata karana mbasa malaya e tarije
par ñarande kombo courant ho findira kombo ide nara yede ni sonka bay ko lamin ma ñata la wulo ko aru karam mo be so da fa ñembe be kala
ko to wole na ni lamin kuntal kombo courant o ka fa me kombo courant asototal wala kinay ko e sisu ko no bari ni ko e sisu ko no ibe karangol dike la radio lin telel to hani tele masoto to nyaay man tele soto da bungo bar radio be bulan ko to batiri sanga ay si ay alamo
sa do kala
nyaadi ko ta o bulaji
abe kala nyaadi
kamun ke nyaadi
radio abe wala mo la ibe mona falaje
ibe la karandirol kala jele
ti talle be radio ko men ka karande
ila subject ro baby jele baby jele
wala nan ka chocho moy fa dan so wala ngombe tambi kana ngadi ngol je be ikadum bungo ko kala ma mo
asototal de
la min mala be karawala de
bari laftalal ideal on ko inde every year second wala fourth
muna ni ko ko nde ko folle sini lamba nde le sini non ne ba
mba say mba foke en koto wole fango yen wulindi yalo famo keta bat yu fanam bulata ko ko me yen nati jambi lamin nyanta karana ntel be jiko be nyine ka ya bulay kara wulo kono ta kilar ya bambalo yo be bulaje koto dinni ngoy si ayala le sino la moy radio
wora ga munda kara mo man soro lamin nyanta kara si suka be
la sila le ayala le sino
dal ko korna ko smolon
kilar ya
be ngela ko momo say mi do ni fano kera
mengi bruzo
ndebe ko ro la ga baro sa no radio ba no bari woro radio ni abe jele ko ngamra do man nembe buljan dala nyara nyar fo ko fendi mo la lamin tayra ba do sa
bara te ku folo tamete
mengi mun na re
teku
bari ko do famo ke
imagine nani nyambol si zol le keje kisiki man si zol no le kafun ka nyoma bari nyambu kino ni manya na kafindi ni nambe ko zol la ga ni nambe ko zol la ga
ngalle limbeta de be nyambo do dilanna
nyara ni ko rim fennat nyara nata
koto bari famo ke da
ngata bungono tammi bungono nyara ngando ko fele ko ke baru nganda ni pelo la dijak
iyo awa betar la
bungono bismillah bisu diara
pendulala yefungo tanka sina dolu tanka koro ta koro
Hello viewers and listeners. Welcome to yet another mathematics lesson for the lower basic school. Today we'll be looking at identification and naming of the types of the solid shapes. Specifically, we'll be identifying and also naming cylinders, cubes, and then cuboids. If you looked at what we have on the screen or on the board, for those of you that are listening, these solid shapes are also called three-dimensional shapes. That is, this object that you have seen is a three-dimensional. What makes it a three-dimensional? Because when it's on a flat surface, it attains a height. The object seen here is dimensional, because if this object is also placed on a flat surface, it attains a height. The same will be applicable to this object, this other object that you've seen here, and then this other one here. Likewise, this, and then this other object. Because each time you place these objects on a flat surface, a height is attained. Now, you can put these objects or sort them into two distinct groups. The objects that you are to sort, one is the one that has a solid object with a rectangular end or a rectangular base. Sort it with an object, or on the list we also have an object with a triangular base, an object here with a squared base, an object here with a circular end, and then also an object here with a triangular end, and then another object with a circular end. So you'll be given these objects, so you sort them into two groups. I'll give you 1 minute to see if you'll be able to sort them out into the two groups that I have asked you to sort them to. And then in this sorting, you must also give me reasons as to why you sort them in that form. Now in this sorting, what we'll have is objects in this form. That is, this object that we'll have in one of the groups will be these objects. And then in another group, you'll also have objects in this other form. So the two groups in question will be this. Why do you choose to sort them in this form? What are the reasons for you to group them in this form? Now if you look at the first group, you will observe that the face that is placed on the flat surface, that in this case here is a rectangle, is the same rectangle that appears at the topmost end. If you also pick up another shape, that is in this case this shape here, the face that is also resting on the flat surface here is a circle. What have you also seen at the topmost end? Also a circle. This one, if you look at again the shape that is on the flat surface, is a triangle. How about at the topmost end? It's also a triangle. How about this one? The face resting on the flat surface is squared. How about the one at the top? It's also squared. So you will realize that these objects that I have just shown to you are what we refer to as prisms. How about these other ones? What is the face that is resting on the flat surface? It is a triangle. How about at the topmost end here? Does the same triangle appear there? It does not. What have you observed here? It is pointed. How about this other one? The face on the flat surface is a circle. Does the same circle appear here? It does not. What have you again observed? At the topmost end, it is pointed. This one, also a triangle, is the one that is resting on the flat surface. And at the topmost end, we could see that it's also pointed. This object, because the plane shape that is resting on the flat surface does not appear at the top, we call those objects pyramids. Our concentration today will be on prisms. So what I'll do here is to put aside all the pyramids. And then we concentrate on these objects. So you could see in this sorting, you'll see a group of prisms on one side, and then a group of pyramids on the other side. So since we're going to concentrate on prisms, specifically the identification of a cylinder. So let's see how we're going to have a cylinder from the lot. Now, what I also intend you doing is first to see how we come up with the definition of a prism. Why do we call these ones prisms? One of the properties is, we say that the face at the bottom appears at the top. And in this case, if you look at this object that I am showing to you, the face at the bottom is rectangular. If I place that object on a flat surface, you will also see the same rectangle also appearing at the topmost end. Similarly, if I also picked up this other one, you will see a circle appearing at the bottommost end. And at the topmost end, a circle has also appeared. And the same thing applies to the objects that I am also showing to you. Now, what is our definition of a prism? In short, a prism is a solid with a face lying on a flat surface appearing at the top. Meaning each time you see a solid shape or you come across an object that attains a height, first look at the face at the bottom. If the same face appears at the top, meaning the face at the bottom should be equal to the face at the top, then the object is a prism. That is to say that prisms are solids with a uniform cross section. What I mean here is like, if you looked at the build up from the bottom, it's the same build up that continues to the end, with this object with a circular end. If you also looked at this other object with a rectangular end, you will also see the build up from the bottom continuing up to the top. The same way with the object that has a squared base, having its build up from the bottom right up to the top being equal. So in short, prisms are solid objects with a uniform cross section. If in the event that you cannot define it in that form, define it as a solid object with a face at the bottom appearing at the top. Now, what I want us to do here is to now what? Also sort the prisms into two groups. Again, you must group them and then be able to give me the reasons why you decide to group them in that form. I am equally going to give you 1 minute to see if your sorting is done properly. Now, what you'll end up having is, you will have groups in this form. That is, one of the groups will have something like this, and then another group having only a single object at the extreme end. Now, what is this object here? Why do you choose to put this object aside and decide to put the rest of the objects on the other side? Now, if you looked at this, the end is round, or the end is circular. So you decided to put that aside. But what happened with this other one? The end here is not circular, but instead this one has, this other one has also got straight sides, the same way like the triangle. This one also have what sides, the same way as the one that has a triangular end, and the other that has also got what, a rectangular end. So you could see that you decide to put those with sides together, that is straight sides together, and the one with the curved end on a separate side. How do we call this other one? This object is what we refer to as a cylinder. It is called a cylinder. What makes it a cylinder? It has an end at the bottom, also appearing at the top. So it is either called a cylinder, or you call it a circular prism. Since we've agreed that this is a prism, by the base here is circular, and then the same base appeared at the top. Now, what is it that we put together to state whether the object you have is a cone or a cylinder? Now, the shape shown is this shape. The question is the shape a cone? One of the options is yes, and the other option is no. What is your take? Is it a cylinder or a cone? The answer is no, the object is not a cone, but instead a cylinder. How about this other one? That this is a cylinder, this object, what name will you give to it? A cylinder. So is the statement there true or false? Is it yes or no? It is actually yes. Now, let's look around our environment and then see or give me examples of cylindrical objects within your environment, within the vicinity that you are in, within the area that you live in. A milk tin could be one of the examples. Why is a milk tin cylindrical? Because the bottommost end of a milk tin is circular. And if you looked at the circular end of that milk tin, you will also see the same circular end at the top. What else? I know some of you will be thinking of a bucket. But if you take a close look at some buckets, they are not cylindrical because the circle at the bottom also appears at the top, but they are not equal. They are not. So can you think of another word, cylindrical object? I think I'll have to leave you with that. Initially, you were given a group of solid shapes, and among them were this shape which has a squared end, and then another shape that has got a rectangular end, and then another with a triangle. And then this other one which we have just named as a cylinder. Now in the group, what we did was we isolated or we've put aside the object with the circular end and then name it as a cylinder. The other objects, we decided to put them together. So in this case here, you are equally asked to sort the other group into two groups. You are asked to put or to sort these objects into two groups. What is it that you will expect having? You will have one of the objects with 3 straight sides on one side, and then the other two with 4 straight sides on the other side. That is one of the solids with a base that is triangular on one side, and the other solid with bases that have got 4 sides on the other side. But our concentration will be on this, the solid with 4 straight sides as its base, that is rectangular, and then also a solid with 4 straight sides that is squared. Now if you looked at these two, you are equally asked to sort them into two groups. Obviously, because there are two objects, you only have to place them apart, because the sorting, if you look at them this way, of course if you choose to place them, one of the distinct property is this one will be taller than this. If you also choose to place them the other way around, you will also observe that is if you choose to place the longest side on the flat surface, and then this other one, place it this way, you will realize that the one with the square end again will be taller than this one. So in separating these two, you can put them apart. Separate them in this form. When they all have 4 straight sides resting on a flat surface. Because the first one, the one on my left, has 4 straight sides resting on a flat surface here. The same way with this other one that has also got 4 straight sides being rested on a flat surface. Why? If you look at this very closely, you will realize that the 4 straight sides are not equal. Only the opposite sides are equal. That is, this pair, because they are opposite each other, they are equal. And then this other one, because they are also opposite each other, they are equal. And if you can reflect on your lesson on plane shapes, you will agree that this shape here is rectangular. And then if you take a close look at this other one, you will realize that the sides of the face that is rested on a flat surface are also equal. So since the sides are all equal, meaning the face resting on the flat surface is what? Is a square. Now, what name will you give to this? Since this object is a prism, and then the base is rectangular, then this object that we have here is called a rectangular prism. What makes it a rectangular prism? Because the face at the bottom here, which is rectangular, is the same face that appears at the top. Then what will be the name given to this other one, the second one? If you take a close look at this solid, the sides are all equal. And one of the confirmations that we've made was, since the sides are equal, meaning the face that is rested on a flat surface is what? Squared. And because the object is a prism, it is called a squared prism. Each and every one of us has got an official name and a name that we are called in the streets, or a name that we are called at home. Officially, my name is Andrew. But in some quarters, my name is shortened to what? Andy. So this one here is a rectangular prism. But because it is a rectangular prism, it could also be called a cuboid. So this object here is called a rectangular prism, or if you choose to call it a cuboid, you are also correct. So it is a rectangular prism or a cuboid. This other one, because the face is squared, it is called a, and could also be called what? A cube. Now let's think of shapes within our environment that depicts this. This solid object with a squared surfaces. What is it that we can think of? Let's reflect on the objects that depicts that. Have any one of you observed or played the Lido? The Lido game. I guess most of you would have seen people playing the Lido game, or may have even attempted playing it. The die is an example of what? A cube. In our next lesson, I will expect you to give me more samples, except the sample that I gave you. Now let's take a close look at this other one. Since we said it's a rectangular, what object could you also what? Associate this one to within your environment? To supply electricity. They are also rectangular. A cement block is rectangular. Some of us, the concrete slabs erected in our homes, they also what? Depict this object called what? A cuboid, because the topmost end is rectangular. I would also expect you to give me a lot of examples of these two objects. Of course, I have given you one for this, and I have given you numerous examples of this other one. But I guess you've got a lot of examples that you can supply me with. So I'll expect you to come up with more samples in our subsequent lesson. Thank you very much for your patience, and hoping to catch up with you in our subsequent lessons.